What's up, everybody? It's Nick with Triple Nickel Outdoors. Hanging down in the lab, just going over some gear. So I thought I'd go over what's in these two storage sacks today. We got my 20-degree Zeppelin underquilt and my 20-degree Bandit top quilt. I've been using them for a couple of seasons now, so I've been really impressed with their overall quality. Thought I'd go over them with you, show you what I've been using. So let's take it outside, set up the hammock, and throw these things on. These are the quilts. This one here is the Zeppelin underquilt packed in its stuff sack, and this is the Bandit top quilt in its stuff sack. You can see they're roughly the same size in their stuff sacks. So if you choose to use these are what you're gonna get with your quilts. Let's start and we'll hook up the underquilt. So right out of the bag, you're gonna see that you have a carabiner and the suspension is running to that. When we hook it up, we'll go over what the different colors mean. But the carabiner is gonna go over your continuous loop. And on the quilts, it has the label that is going to signify that this is the head end. So I got the head end of my Dream Hammock Sparrow right here. Hook it up right over the continuous loop. Take the quilt out. And then the same thing on the other side. Just right over the continuous loop. So we got the underquilt on, and this is a full-length version, which means we're going to get protection from head to toe. This is the largest one that they have available, which is 83 inches long. When you're online, you'll see that they have a couple different options that range anywhere from 55 inches all the way up to 83. So depending on how tall you are, depending on how much coverage you want, you can find a version that's right for you. The one thing that does come standard on the quilts is how wide it is. The quilts come standard at a width of 44 inches. I was concerned though that because this quilt is going to be used below freezing, and like I said, I am a bigger guy, that might not be enough coverage. So I ended up calling up Paul and I decided to go with a width of 48 inches. And that extra 4 inches just gives me, peace of mind just knowing that I'm going to have adequate coverage throughout the night. Because I did go with a wider version of the 20-degree model, I ended up beefing up the suspension to a 1/8 inch shock cord compared to the 3/32 that's also available. And all this does is it just gives the quilt a little bit more structural stability so that it's not sagging with that additional weight on it. So I was happy that I went with that. And if you look at the suspension, you'll see that there's a couple different colors, black and white. What the black is the primary suspension, which will be the quilt going on the channel so you can move it anywhere you want. So as we're setting it up, I'll show you how to fine tune everything, but that's going to be the primary suspension that lets the quilt slide back and forth. Once you get it dialed in to where you want it actually set up, then it has this white secondary suspension that will fine tune the area and keep the quilt locked in and not accordion down. So all you do is you put the cord lock to where you want it and then go down to the other side and same thing. Just tighten down on that cord lock, and that will lock the quilt in place so that it doesn't, like I said, accordion down on you. The last adjustment that's available is to actually lift the quilt up so that you're not getting any air gaps. And it's done, once again, with another piece of 1/8 inch shock cord and a cord lock. And all you do is tighten on that so that you're getting a good seal around the ends of your hammock. The best way to set it up is to lay in it and have somebody else just kind of play with all those different adjustments so that you can dial it in and get it fine-tuned to where you want it set up. And once you do it, I just like to put like a little overhand knot right behind the cord lock, because once you get it locked in and dialed in, you won't really need to make any adjustments after that point. You can see that the baffles run the length of the quilt, and then on both the head and foot end, it has these draft collars, which really help seal in any gaps that the quilt might have. So those are a huge benefit to having this quilt. And the other thing that I really like about the Zeppelin is that it comes with this pack hook mod, which is an exposed piece of shock cord from the primary suspension. If you have a Dream hammock or a Dutchware Chameleon or other hammocks that have the tie outs for their hammocks, you can connect that to that exposed piece of shock cord, and what that'll do is it'll lock the quilt on your shoulder. I've had my quilt for a little over 2 years, and when they were designing it back then, that was an option. Now that shoulder lock comes standard, and it's on both sides of the quilt. I ended up going with an 850 fill power down. The weight on this is 29.1 ounces. So it's a little bit heavier than the standard Zeppelin models for this same temperature rating. But like I said, because of that additional 4 inches and a little bit more down, it's gonna weigh a little bit more. I'm gonna take the overcover off so that way you can see how I can adjust it so that we can fine tune it. All right, so here's how I set it up. I got that pack hook mod locked in on my shoulder with those tie outs because that's where I know that my shoulder's gonna be. And then from there, because I sleep with my head left and my feet right, I want more coverage on my foot side and more coverage on my head side. So I tightened the white suspension up pretty tight on this side and leave it a little bit looser on the left side on the bottom. And then come up to the top, same thing. Pull the head end on the head side, on my left side, tighter, and then this just tight enough so that it's taking out all the slack from the quilt. Now the baffles too, try and play around with them and just get them kind of snug. You don't want them over tight because you don't want it bunching up so that way it's creating gaps. You just want it kind of so it's wrapped around the bottom, and then you can fine tune those when we get in. All right. So you see we got the pack hook right on my shoulder. My feet are definitely have enough coverage over there. And then same thing on this side. Coverage to the head. And I'm feeling to make sure that there's no gaps underneath that quilt. Same thing with the feet. It's a little bit harder to do it yourself. That's why if you have someone, they could kind of cinch up on that. But it seems to be pretty good. That's one of the benefits of using that 1/8 inch shock cord, because it's really helping to lift the quilt up so it's hugging your body. Nice. You might find if you do need it, it does have all of these little hooks on them that if you did want to run some shock cord over your ridge line, that will help give it a little bit more support also. I haven't needed to use anything like that. This has been more than adequate. That's it. And with this thing locked in place, it's not going anywhere. You get to stay comfy the whole night. So the only other thing we didn't talk about was fabric selections. And I went with the standard M10 inner shell in charcoal gray. And then the outer is a fabric called HD1, and I got that in black. When you go online, you'll see that there's a bunch of different fabric choices and colors available. So just do a little bit of research, see which fabric will work right for you. The M10's a little bit thinner than the HD1. This just gives the outside a little bit more protection. And it's also treated in a DWR coating so that if there is a little bit of splashing or condensation, it'll be able to bead off and not absorb that condensation. But you definitely don't want to get it wet. All right, I'm pretty much sure that that covers everything with the underquilt. Now I'm going to go grab the Bandit top quilt. This is the top quilt from Underground Quilts called the Bandit. There's a couple different sizing options available. They have a standard sizing option, an extra large version, and then a youth version. I ended up going with the standard version in 84 inches long and 55 inches wide. I ended up going with a flat sewn foot box. There's a couple different foot box options available. You can get this version, you can get the draw cord with the zipper on it, or they also have a fully insulated version where they, I guess this is just has some additional insulation to it. I got it in an 850 fill power down. And I had them add an ounce of overstuff to the foot box and another ounce of overstuff to the rest of the quilt. And all that overstuff does is it just gives the quilt a little bit better performance when it's pushed to its limit. So with the 850 fill power down and then the 2 ounces of overstuff that I added to the quilt, it's coming in at 25.65 ounces. So a little bit of a weight penalty because of that, additional down. But for me, the extra coverage that you get and the performance at lower temperatures is well worth it in my opinion. One other feature of the Bandit is that they offer it in a tapered version or a no taper version. So tapered version, will start out wide and then slowly lose its width, almost like a mummy style sleeping bag, down to the foot box. The non-tapered version will start out wide and then it'll keep its form the whole way. And then, as where the foot box meets, that's where it'll, start to get a little bit thinner. I ended up going with the tapered version. And if you're primarily using it in a hammock, then the tapered version isn't an issue because it'll seal around you, you're cocooned in, it's fine. I haven't had any issues with it. The only problem that I've had with having it tapered is if you're using it in a tent or on a sleeping pad. Because if you're laying like a mummy and not moving, then I'm able to get coverage the whole way. But what I noticed, like when I went to Zion, I brought this and I slept in a tent. The minute that I rolled over on my side, it was just enough coverage that if I didn't move, I was okay. But the minute that I moved around a little bit, it didn't have enough coverage. So that could be because I'm shaped like a Christmas tree and I have like childbearing hips. I don't know. But I would have probably preferred to have gone with the no tapered version if I were to buy it again. If we flip it over, you could see that I went with that M10 charcoal gray again for the inside, like on the Zeppelin. And then I went with an HD1 Moroccan blue for the outer material. Same thing, there's a bunch of different materials to choose from, colors to choose from online, so you can pick which ones you like. Down towards the foot box, it has a couple of these snaps, so that if you do want a little bit more coverage, you can snap those together. And then as you work your way up the quilt, you'll see that it has these loops along the way. There's 3 of them. And what that does is you will have this piece of shock cord that has these toggles on the end. And what you do with these is you put them in the sides. And if you are going to choose to sleep on the ground, you connect those, tighten down the shock cord so that it's comfortable around your body, and that will seal in the quilt around your body so that you're not getting any gaps. It does have a snap at the top and a draw cord, shock cord on both sides that will tighten up around your neck and seal in the top part so that when you get in, you can put your head in through here, and that'll help seal around your head. So that's my quilt set from Underground Quilts. I would definitely recommend this company if you're looking to buy quilts, buy tarps. Their gear is impeccable. It's just top quality stuff. So that's pretty much all I got for this. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments section. Other than that, this is Nick with Triple Nickel Outdoors. Get out there and hang.